Hey everyone. Today I wanted to talk about meetings. And I don't want to dive into it the way maybe typical. Um, and yes, I have a bit of a swollen eye, so I apologize for that. But typically, we would have a conversation about how you run your meetings. There's a million things out there, kind of like presentations on how to make that effective. And I think you really need to consider that the goal is effectivity of a meeting. Get them in, get them out, make it happen appropriately. You are the leader, you're the competency builder, you're the one who's responsible for making sure that happens organizationally wide for your team and for the teams that are underneath you. As the C suite, whatever, it doesn't matter, you're responsible. So make sure that competency is built, make sure that people are being effective in their meetings and that they're focusing and getting things right. It doesn't take a lot, and you could probably have training within an hour to be able to kind of knock it out. There are some really good strategies for making that happen. What I really want to talk about is the rhythm of your meetings. Not what the content of your meetings, but the rhythm of when you're having your meetings and what you're doing in those meetings for an organization as a whole. I'll have a follow on after this as well that kind of touches on similar but even broader spectrum ideas and thoughts. But today, I really just wanted to talk about the core meanings of each of your teams that need to be addressed. So we'll go from daily all the way out to annual or monthly or whatever it ends up being. I'll start with the daily stand up. You should be, a lot of teams do this, it's not a new thing, but you should be checking in daily with your team. I have a very physical job right now, doing facilities management, and that's very different than when I was in technology. The daily stand up in technology was you met in a room, you stood up because that was a physical manifestation of the idea that this should be a short meeting. Here I need to go find them, and we sit and we talk, or we stand around a stump in the ground or something like that, and we just kind of talk through the plan for the day. We have all the systems in place and everything we need. It doesn't have to be formal. It just has to be done. And you've got 3 questions that you're asking. What went right, what went wrong, and what's blocking you. And my responsibility is to deal with the what's blocking, right? It's you celebrate the wins, you address the issues, and you are the blocker. You're the guy that's getting in there and serving them by getting the things unblocked that need to be unblocked, okay? And then after that, you're going to get into your weekly meetings, okay? And apologize, I'm scrolling my computer here. I won't have to do that again. But the weekly operational meetings really are a time for you to sit down for an hour or so and dig into the details of everything that needs to be done over the course of the week. I really recommend this to be done on a Monday early, but I also recommend that you kind of give a Monday morning window for people to get over the Monday blues, right? So Monday at 11 o'clock, Monday at 10 o'clock, something like that is a really good time frame for this meeting. You get together for an hour. They've caught up on their email. They've caught up on everything that they need to do. You get together for an hour and you engage on discussions about everything that needs to be done for that week. In the tech industry, this may end up being, in software or hardware or whatever you guys do, this may end up being your sprint meeting. Could very well be that because the idea is the same. This is what you're going to be working on. The retrospective is kind of an additional aspect to it, and I think that has a lot of value. I don't think it's necessary in every kind of business, but it's always good to look back on what you're doing. But you can do that probably in the first 10 of a meeting or something like that for the other businesses. So dive into that. Get into that weekly cycle. You need to be connecting. Now, you'll notice I didn't say it's a weekly one-on-one, and that's because it's a monthly one-on-one, okay? And we've already talked about what a one-on-one is. It is not operational. Okay? So all of your operational meetings are done. You have a weekly, you have a daily. That's it. That's all you need. Full stop. Okay? Every other meeting is organizational for a different purpose. Okay? The last meeting I'm going to talk about today is your monthly one-on-one. This meeting is your employees' meeting. It's their meeting. You have two jobs in this meeting. Number one, to set the meeting. So you're the one that sends the invite out. You have a requirement that this meeting happens every month. Okay? Set it pretty specifically. The fifth or the first Monday of every month, or the second Monday of every month, or the first Monday of the first full week, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, but it's every month. They know it, you know it. That will be important. Initially, when you have a one-on-one with someone, there's always a bit of trepidation. There's always a bit of lack of understanding and what this is going to be and all of that kind of stuff until trust is built. Okay? Your goal in this meeting is to build trust, because this is their meeting and they are coming to you with topics. And if they don't have trust, it's going to be a short, quiet meeting, and you need to avoid that. So the next thing that you want to make sure in this meeting you're responsible for, okay, is doing the values assessment, and not doing it as much as giving them the sheet and saying, do the values assessment, and give them 5 minutes. If you need to leave the room, if you want to go get coffee, if you want to do whatever, the point is the first part of the meeting is you hand them the values assessment. And we've gotten into this a little bit, but the point is a sheet that measures their how they're doing. Okay, for my philosophy, which is a values-based philosophy, we measure against values. A lot of companies will measure against behaviors. Some companies will measure against results. We've talked about why I don't think that those are the best. But measuring against something is better than nothing. Monthly, because right now all we do is do it annually. Even in these one-on-ones, they've turned operational. You've got to stop that. You've got to make sure. And I will say that this is where the step level is super important. You as a director have the responsibility not only to make sure that you're doing proper one-on-ones, but that your people are doing proper one-on-ones. You have to make that happen. So step up and make that happen. So you have two responsibilities. We've talked about them. Now they do their assessment, and they come back and they talk to you about the assessment. And your simple response is defend it. And it doesn't matter if they're at expectation, above expectation, or below expectation. Make them defend it. And then you give them, based on their defense, you have the sheet in your hand because they've given it to you. You mark where you think they are, okay, and sign it. So you put a check mark and a signature where you think they are, and that could be an agreement with them, or that could be a disagreement with them, but you've had the conversation. A lot of times, I'm marking them a check mark lower. Maybe they've been really optimistic and they think they're above expectation, but I make them prove why, what physical manifestation took place that gave them the idea that they were above my expectation. And the job description and everything else, right? What did they do? And a lot of times they'll be able to defend it. And let me tell you, as you get down the path on a month-to-month basis, they will defend it, because during the month, they will be looking for ways to improve on that. Now, imagine this, and this is why I love this and why I drive so hard on values. Imagine having a value like a can-do attitude. And you've gotten to the point in this conversation to where every month they are looking for ways to prove to me that they have a can-do attitude. Every day they're out there looking for ways to do a can-do attitude. Isn't that by definition what we are trying to drive for in improving the values and improving the behaviors, whatever, and then the results? Isn't that what we're looking for? because what they are doing is they're saying, okay, how do I turn this into a behavior and how do I get results? And when they come back and they said, hey, I went down, like for instance, one of my guys yesterday went down the road and on his own grabbed a chainsaw and cleaned up the edge of the road for about a quarter mile. And yeah, that was not on my radar for something that he needed to do. And that probably means that something that needed to get done got deferred. But guess what? We've already dealt with all of our major urgent priorities, and the flexibility that I give them to make those kind of decisions, his can-do attitude on getting that done and going above and beyond, super, super important. He took the initiative, it was autonomous, and he did it on his own, and he just made it happen. And we have a really nice road now because of it. And, you know, that of course puts on our radar that we have miles of other roads to get it done on, but that's a different problem. But the point being is that you give the freedom, you give the flexibility, and you drive home the values. And so in this conversation, we're talking about the values. In this conversation, we're engaging in interactive discussion about where they are in the status of the organization, meaning how they're doing against those values. You know, if they're at a level 2 in the organization, which is probably a typical full-time worker bee kind of person, then the likelihood that they're driving the results through the behaviors and through the values that you want is good if you're driving those values on a monthly basis. So again, it's a monthly one-on-one. Your responsibility is to ensure, my computer went crazy. Your responsibility is to ensure that they understand where you're at. The value is in the conversation. Something always gets in the way. The value is in the conversation. Now, the rest of this meeting, once you've gone through the values, whether you have 4, 5, whatever, or again, I recommend 4 to 5. You can always have a 6th that's kind of a flex value. But the point being that these are the values of the organization that you're driving through. I think we got into that. Pull up the values video for more details on that and how to build out the values assessment sheet, okay? This is their agenda. So the next part of the meeting is all them. Once you get past that and you get agreement and alignment on the 4 values, you've got a half hour to an hour meeting, whatever is appropriate. I would put an hour on the meeting block, and then you can cut it short. By the way, generally meetings, that's the right way to approach it, is put a little bit longer than you think you need and target shorter, right? Nobody, how do I say this? Everybody loves a meeting that's cut short. Everybody hates a meeting that goes over. So plan it long. That's the only difference, right? Same content, but if you plan it long, if you had a 40-minute meeting, if you plan a 40-minute meeting and you set it for 30 minutes and say, I'll talk fast, you're going to be 40 minutes and everybody's going to be upset because you set it for 30. But if you set it for an hour and you get out at 40, everybody's excited, okay? Simple little tactic. Anyways, they defend themselves on the values, you counter, you sign it, and then the most important part of this meeting, no operations. None. Ever. Full stop. End the meeting. Have them walk out. And then, if you need to, out in the hallway, grab them and say, oh, by the way, I had this question about, what we were doing on Friday or whatever, okay? No operations. Ever in a one-on-one. You're sending a message, and this message is so important to your people. You value who they are. This is a who meeting, not a what meeting. You value who they are. The whole meeting is talking about them. It's asking them questions about who they are and how they're performing and how they feel about the job and all of those things. And it's giving you deep insight into all of this. Now, I don't recommend, I mean, you can have a sheet of paper there and take some quick notes and things like that, but I really recommend you close your computer. You're looking at them, good eye contact. You're engaging with them throughout the whole thing. If you need to take some notes, memorize as much, take shorthand, whatever you need to do, memorize as much as you can. And when they walk out that door, start scrambling and write it all down so that you don't forget it. It's really good to have that. And then review it before the next time, which means you need to set up your own 30-minute cycle beforehand so that you can review those notes and have a good plan on where to go. If you're anything like me and I have a bad memory, those are steps that I have to do in order to be able to make sure that I'm in sync with where we've been over the months, month over month over month over month. Especially as your teams get larger, you get to know them less, things like that. And when you do skip levels, you're going to want to know your people, take notes, But the important thing here, one-on-one, it's their meeting, it's not operational, okay? And you only are making sure that the tasks are getting done. At the end of that meeting, you could do one additional thing. It has nothing to do with operations. It has to do with how do you think I'm doing as your manager, as your leader. And that gives them the opportunity to provide you some open feedback. And when they know that you ask that question every single time, they'll start getting a little bit more bold about communicating with you and engaging with you. And when you show yourself being humble enough to ask that question, they're going to be bold enough to give you the feedback. And that will drive its own conversations in there. So make sure you're doing that as well. All right. So good enough for today. It was a little longer than I expected, but I just can't get through how important the one-on-one is monthly with your people, and it's their meeting and it's not operational. So have a great day. We'll talk to you later.